ברכי נפשי es Hashem. Today we're going to study page 90, and in Mitzvah Hashem, God willing, we're going to finish chapter 9. Chapter 9, page 90, that's today our test. This page is the completion of the subject which we discussed in chapter 7 and 8, the minimum measure for carrying items from one domain to another, especially small items. But while we discuss this matter, we can derive other matter in regards to carrying from one domain to another, and that's again, we will end with this chapter, chapter 9 today, page 90. We are on page 89, the very bottom of the page, with the Mishnah. This is the Mishnah continuing our discussion in chapter 7 and 8, dealing with the minimum measure for carrying items that a person is obligated from, is liable from carrying those items from one domain to another. המוציא עצים כדי לבשל ביצה קלה. If someone carries a wood, usually they need it lehasaka, in order to warm their homes. So a person does that while he carries from one domain to another, and even it's just in order to warm a small size of egg. What is a small size of egg? You remember we discussed in the previous chapter? It's the size of
egg.
What? Chicken.
Chicken. Yeah.
Very good. The chicken size. So they said, if you remember, we discussed in page 80b the whole idea of quick cooking. So that's this size, the minimum size. Or tvalin כדי לטבל ביצה קלה. Or a person take different herbs that make this good fragrance, good smell out of that, and he wants to combine it with a light egg. So again, you take a chicken egg and you want to make something that that people like it better. You know, nowadays, for example, there are people who like scrambled egg with za'atar, or they like scrambled egg with other things. This is one of those herbs that carry also a good odor. So they said umitztarfim. So now the big discussion here is what's the Rambam discussed in the Pirush Mishnah, in the interpretation of the Mishnah. Can you combine this with others? Which means umitztarfim ze im ze, which means if you take a different tavlinim, a different type, let's say you take for example a pepper and zanjabil or ginger together with other herbs, and you combine them. So you cannot say that since I use a different herbs, it's a separate category. No, since you use them all for that purpose, it's Yomei said, well, since I can use either one of those items to make a scrambled egg, so by combining all of them, what's the issue? So they said here that the minute you combine it, you're already liable for carrying them from one domain to another. Not everyone agreed. The Tosfot Yom Tov and the Rambam said, he commented on this Rambam and he said no, only pepper and ginger it's combined because they use the same meaning. But for example, if you use different vegetables, such as if you use onion or you use a garlic, so you cannot combine it. Anyway, next one, klipei egozim, the layer of those nuts. That usually it's a green and it's a wet, or another option, klipei rimonim, the layer of the pomegranates. Istis, what they said in English, istis in your GEMARA?
Safflower.
Safflower, thank you. So it's something that make a color out of that. Ufu'a, it's some herbs that
Matter.
you make it red. What? Matters, thank you. And כדי לצבוע בהם בגד קטן פי סבכה, which means the same way as they did in the tabernacle, that they use seasonal materials to paint different clothing. So here they use a different type of clothing to put this color, and combining them put the color on that. So all of that, he said, pisvacha, for example, that's the women use it to cover their heads for different reasons, or it's just for beauty or for modesty. But anyway, they all of that in this category, meiraglaim, neter, uvorit, kimolya, ve'ashlag. It's all different type of liability of carrying, such as urine, natron, borit, kemolan earth, and potash. It's all different things that they use in those days for laundry purposes. So he said the measurement is kedei lechabes beged katan pisvacha. So the equivalent is the amount that used to lander a small garment placed atop of this women hairnet. So that's basically the measurement. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kedei la'avir et haketem. Rabbi Yehuda said that it's equivalent which used to remove a stain. So there's a famous GEMARA we study when we study Nida in 61. They said there that if they have a grease, a small amount of color on the garments, so how you determine? So if you put it in the laundry, and this will not remove, so you know that she is pure. Why? Because if it was a blood that come out of her body, so the minute you use the laundry, it will remove. But if the color remain on that, so the GEMARA there in Nida 61 said no. So that's make her tehora. She is pure. Anyway, Tanina Charazimna. Now we go to the GEMARA. We learned one time that the measurement of wood, it's in order to cook a light egg. So kaneh kedei lasot kolmus. If you use this type of reed to make a quill, אם היה עב או מרוסס, if it was a fragment, or it's a מרוסס, which means that there is a hole. So he said, so if it's hole, as you cannot use as a quill. So the measurement is כדי לבשל ביצה קלה שבביצים, in order to cook light egg, תרופה ונתונה באילפס. It's combining with oil, and you put it in this pot. So basically, if this is a reed that you cannot use as a quill, so it's considering the same as all the other wood. There's no difference. So why we learn in this Mishnah that the measure of this wood is in order to cook a light egg? So why we need to repeat this halacha? Ma'odeteima, you may say hatam hud lo chazelei midei, because in that case nothing is ready to make it for heating, the wood. אבל עצים דחזו לכך דעד קילה, but those different עצים, meaning the wood part that they use for ככה דעד קילה, so it's a tooth of the key, that's measurement determined liability for, it should be any small amount, אפילו כלשהו קמ"ש מלאן. So you learn in the Mishnah that the even wood that is a small measurement in order to cook a light egg, it's enough. So the Ritva said, so you learn from that the main reason that we take this type of wood for cooking purposes is in order to make either type of heating for the house or cooking for the people. So usually we have the rules that any type of materials that have more than one use, we use the one that it's more often and more common used by people, even it makes that item for in a state of leniency. But still, since he use it more often by people, we use that item. Then we said tvalin k'dei letabel beitza kala, spices in equivalent to use it to season an easily cooked egg. So it's all combined to make it the measurement for shiur veraminu. טבלים, 2 או 3 שמות ממין אחד, if you take a different spices or different thing, for example, you take a white pepper, black pepper, long pepper, you know, all these different things, and you combine them. Go to Yehuda when he comes here and he cook, you see what he's doing. You have million different things and he combine them, right? So they said, or mishlosha minim, or he combined the 3 different spices. So if you combine it all together, so asurim, so the minutes that's spices, you cannot use it for the purpose of eating. So therefore the whole part of cook, that whatever you cook, even is a small part that you use for that tavlin, for that spices, it's already we cannot use it for food. ומצטרפין זה עם זה, so it means that you can join together each another to constitute a complete measure. That's what Rashi said. ואמר חזקיה, and Chizkiah said in regard to this Mishnah, מיני מתיקה שלנו, we are on page 90, the top of the page. He said that the sweet type, it's different. Why? הואיל ואוין למתק כדי רע. Because if you mix them together, they can, they sweeten the food on a pot. So therefore, even each of them can make this the food sweeten. But because they you combine them and you make it a special taste, so therefore Rashi said in Avodah Zarah 66 that that's the measurement to make this food sweet, and they combine them all together. The Ritva has a lot to say on this. Tama dechazu lematek et agdera. The reason that they join together, it's because they are suitable to sweeten the food on a pot. But if not, you can combine it. So since the Mishnah did not tell us, Rashi said, the difference between all these spices, so it means that even those spices that are not for the purpose of sweetening the food, you can combine them together in order to make a shi'ur hotza'ah, the measurement for carrying from one domain to another. Now, hachaname. So here the Mishnah we said to they're referring to a case which was what chazu lematek. Here they also speak about those items that they are suitable to sweeten the food on a pot. So they all together combine for the shi'ur. Klipe guzin klipe remonim satit ufuah. We said all of these different things like nutshell, pomegranate peel, safflower, and madder. So all used to produce the dyes. So kedei litzboa beged katan. It's even to dye a small garment. Veramini amotzi samanim shruin kedei litzboa b'hem dugma le'ira. The question is if one carries out herbs that soak, and he wants to use it to dye a sample, the style of stopper for the shoulder of the loom. So he said, so that's basically contradicted to what the Mishnah said, because the Mishnah said the measurement of liability is not the amount used to dye a small garment. So here's the opposite of what we said earlier. So Amar Rab Nachman Amar Rab Baravua, לפי שאין אדם טורח לשרות סמנים. He said that usually a person, when there is a soak dye, a person does not go to the trouble to soak herbs just to dye a sample of shuttle of a loom. That's not litzboa b'hem dugma le'ira. That's usually people don't do. So therefore, the whole idea of shchikat samemanim, that they soaking herbs to dye, which is one of the Shabbat melachot, but here they speaking about something that is already ready to use, and it was prepared in advance. So and it's only basically to have a sample to use it for the shuttle of a loom. Mei raglaim, meraglaim. So here we speak about meraglaim, the urine, and we said that the mention in the Mishnah, it's speak about this type of meraglaim, neter alexandrit velo neter apartenit, which means that it's they speak about Alexandrian natron, the city of Egypt, and not natron of apantrin, which is the different quality. So again, the Mishnah speaks about different in age, between young and old, etc. But here we speak in the name of different places, different quality. If you remember when we studied Yoma 69, that was the place that the great Alexander met Shimon the Righteous. So that was the city in the Galilee, in the border between Judah and Galilee. Neter, netron, Tana neter Alexander Borit, Amar Rav Yehuda zechol. So Rav Yehuda said, what is Borit? It's a sand. So they ask, V'atanya, we learn Haborit ve'hachol. We learned a different brighter that Borit and sand, which means that it's something else. Elamai Borit kabrita. So they said the Borit, it's a sulfur. So it
sulfur. Yeah.
Sulfur, right? So the Ramban have a lot to say. What does that mean when we use this term sulfur here? Meitivei hosifu alehen hachalbitzin vehaleinun vehaborit ve'ahal. They add to all of these lists. So that's from Yerushalmi in Shvi'it chapter 7. So we add to this a ornitholgam and wormwood and borit and eloah. So v'is al kadatach, if one entered to a mind that kabrita, that borit is a sulfur, kabrita mi'ita b'shvi'it. So is there sulfur in the subject of halachot of the shvi'it, of the sabbatical year? V'atanya ze haklal, we learned in a braita that that's the rule, that's the principle. Kol sheyesh lo ikar yesh lo shvi'it. Whatever the root grows in the land, so they have the rule of sabbatical year, which means that you cannot make a business and you cannot do anything to make money out of that, and you have to give it away. However, v'she'en lo ikar, but something that doesn't have the roots in the land, ein lo shvi'it, it doesn't have the halachot of the sabbatical year, so you're allowed to do business with that, and you don't need to give it away. So he said that's not applied to gofrit, it's just a general land. So it has to be that borit is not gofrit. Elamai borit, what's that mean, the word borit? So you have to say ahala. It's like aloha, it's the herb that used in those days for laundry purposes. Vatanya v'aborit ve'ahala. Again, we find another brighter that they said both borit and ahala. They said trei gavne ahala. So there are two types of aloha, and one of them it's called borit, and the other what is called
aloe.
Aloha.
Aloe.
Aloe.
Yep.
Okay, aloe. You guys know Spanish, and in Spanish they use
Aloha
it in different. What?
Aloha is like saying hello, goodbye.
Yeah, that's in Hawaiian. Aloha.
Yeah, but there's an herb that's selling in the Whole Food store, no?
Aloe?
Aloe.
You can get aloe. Aloe is different. You're saying aloe is different than aloha.
Yeah.
Aha.
Aloe.
Okay.
Yep. It's very good for your skin and so forth.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw once in the Whole Food store they're selling a drink.
Yeah, there's some
aloe vera or something like
aloe
that.
vera. Yeah, you could buy it in Trader Joe. The aloe vera, the big thing, is cleanse you.
Cleanse your body. Okay. Kimolia, Amar Rav Yehuda, shlof dots. That's type of thing that they use for washing idols. Anyway, the fifth one, ashlag. What is ashlag? So ashlag, he said, Amar Shmuel, shaltinu l'kol nechoten yama. I asked all those people who were sailor, ואמרו לי שוענה שמי ומשתכח בנוגבה דמרגניתא ומפקלה ברמצא דפרזלה. So they told me that ashlag it's called shonana, and is found in the shell of the pearl, and is removed using an iron skewer. So it's some type of that's what they use. That's what Rashi said here, that they use it for that purpose. Anyway, we'll go to the next Mishnah. We said in the Mishnah, pilpelet kol shehu. Simply speaking, pilpelet, you think it's pepper, but here they said it's not. It's a special, some type of vegetable that it's not what we have in the Western Europe, etc. And soon the GEMARA said, what does that mean? It's not regular pepper. Kolshu, so it's in any amount. Ve'itran, if one take out a tar, so when you use that tar, when it's coming out, when it's a tremendous amount of heating, hot, right? So kolshu, any amount. Minei besamim, if you take different herbs to make a good fragrance, good odor. Uminei matachot, and any type of kind of metal in any amount. Kol shehen, any amount. Soon the GEMARA said what type. Me'avnei hamizbeach u'me'afar hamizbeach. If the altar was broken and you use that stones or the ashes, the dust that's coming out of the foundation of the altar. Mekek Sfarim. If you remember when we are in the Ner Israel Yeshiva, I remember the librarians show us old books. So sometimes if you don't maintain old books, they have all these type of small, tiny, miniature, this very, very small, whatever you call it, that they come out and they destroy the book.
Bookworms.
Right? Bookworms, thank you. But it's even smaller. Infinitesimal, small, tiny one. So he said, Umekek mitpechotehem, those worms that use for cover of the sacred document. See that's what Rashi said here. Kolshu, he is liable in any amount. Why? Because shematzni'in otan legonzan. You remember we learned gniza? If you have some items that you use for sacred purposes and it's contain name of God and is no longer in use, so what do? You put it in a gniza, in a special box, and when it's accumulate, you dig a special grave and you bury them respectfully. So it means that even small amount of that, you are basically obligated of carrying it. In the past, they have really a special rooms that it's called geniza, and in those days they used to lock those rooms and seal them. Nowadays, we basically put it in a special box and bury them. So they said, "Shematzni'in otan legonzam." Rabbi Yehuda Omer, "Af hamotzi meshamshei avodah zara kolshehu." Rabbi Yehuda said, even one who takes any type of items used for idol worshipping, so is liable in any amount. Why? Shene'emar, because it's written, "Velo yidbak becha me'uma min acherem." The sentence says in Deuteronomy 13, and there shall cleave nothing of all these prescribed items to your hands. So any amount, even small amount, since they said me'uma, nothing, so it's included. So the Ramban in Sefer HaMitzvot, in the negative one, Lo Ta'aseh, Kuf Tzadik Dalet, 194. So he explained it, he elaborated that, but because all of this in any amount, we have to discard it. So therefore, it makes no difference the size. GEMARA, pilpelet kolshu. We said that any amount of pepper suited. So what is the amount? He said any amount, kolshu. Lemay chazia. What people use for this type of pilpelet? says לריח הפה, that in those days they use, in order to move a mouth odor, they use פלפלת. Itran, this type of tar, כלשהו, any amount, למאי חזיה, what they using this tar? לצלחתה, when sometimes someone has a headache,
Migraine headache.
Migraine headache, the Meiri said. So that's the use to heal it. There is a book called Aruch, and they have different definitions. So when they speak about Tzlach, Tzin Lamedchet, Tzadik Lamedchet, he gave a full explanation of the use for that migraine at the head, what exactly they use in those days. Minei besamim kol shehen. If you take any type of spices that they carry a good odor, so it's any amount. So now we elaborate. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages said, Hamotzi reach ra kolshu. If someone take it in those days, Rashi said that they used to put it in when someone is sick or is a little baby, so they want to remove demons. So they put this type of fragrance and they remove it from him. You are from Panama, so you may attest to that in the ancient time, right?
Yeah.
They still do that?
Yeah, some people, some
people. Okay. Shemen Tov, if it's a good oil that they put different spices, right? So they said kolshu, any amount. Argaman, kolshu. Argaman is one of the colors they're using in the tabernacle, Beit HaMikdash. It's like a reddish. So they said it's any amount. They use it, by the way, also Rashi said for different fragrance. So it's like, it's not just to carry the color, it's also carry the special smell. Uvtulat havered, which is a small amount of a virgin rosebud, that it's not really red, it's like between purple and red. It's light, very light red. So achat, so he is liable for one bud. The Mishnah continues, minei matachot kol shehen, if kind of metals in any amount, lemai chazu, what's the purpose they're using it? Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar אומר שכן ראוי לעשות ממנה דורבן קטן. He said it can use to make a feet of a small nail. So they put it at that stick, and they're leading those animals when they are they doing plowing in those days. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages said, "Haomer harei alai barzel." If someone said he wants to bring a gift to the Beit HaMikdash, so one is vow, and he said, he doesn't say specific, he just said, it's incumbent upon me to donate an iron to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple. So אחרים אומרים, אחרים, it's usually Rabbi Meir, because the GEMARA said in Horayot that any time you see in the Talmud the word אחרים, it's Rabbi Meir. Tosfot in Avodah Zarah 68 disagree. He said it's not always, but that's what the GEMARA said. Anyway, אחרים אומרים לא יפחות מאמה על אמה. The sages said, or Rabbi Meir said that must donate no less than cubit by cubit of iron. You know, otherwise it's just a joke, right? It has to be the minimum measure. למאי חזיה. So what's that amount used in this size of metal? אמר רב יוסף לחליה עורב. So he said that that time in the altar they have a raven that come around and bothers, so they have to have impediment in order for them to run away. So they use it. So that was the roof of the holy temple. They use it and they put it in a very high. It's like knives, like nails. And if the raven come down, they know already that they in trouble. So therefore they run away from that, and they put it at the top of the roof. So someone donate that amount, that's the use, to put it on the top of the roof, and the raven will run away. We're not talking about your favorite baseball team. We talk about raven in a temple. V'ika de amrei, so no one should get offended, right? V'ika de amrei, we are not fan neither Redskin, what is called that team?
Ravens.
No, but the other one. Redskin, fighting always. Redskin, okay. V'ika de amrei, there are others who said, אחרים אומרים, לא יפחות מקל יעורב, וכמה אמר רב יוסף אמר לו מה. There are those who said the opposite. Like, it should not be less than a raven impediment, and the amount is cubit by cubit. Next, haomer, if someone said nechoshet, if someone said that I'm donating a copper, but he didn't specify what's the amount, so lo yifchot mimea kesef. By the way, that's what we study also in the Tractate Menachot, 106. So it should not be less than me'ah of silver. Me'ah, it's 1/6 of dinar in those days. And the Ritva said, if you're donating something, it has to carry a meaning. Otherwise, it's just belittling the value of making a commitment to Beit HaMikdash. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer said, Lo yifchot, if someone's donated copper, it should not be less than mitzinora ktana shel nechodesh, a small fork of copper. The Mai Chazia, what's the temple uses is suited. Amar Abaye shemechatetim ba ptilot umekanchim nerot. So they use it to scrape the wicks of the candle burn and clean the lamp on it. So they use it for that purposes. So the goal is that they want to make it when they lit the candles, they want them to be clear and nice. So they use it to clean it. That's like utensils to use. Makak sfarim umeket mipachat. If you have this worm or this thing that come in the books or in a scroll or in the covering. So he said, Amar Rav Yehuda mekak de sifrei techach de shirai v'ila de invei ufe de te'enei v'ha de rimonei kulu sakanta. All this list of things, which is the mekek that come, so these insects that they use to destroy scroll, or the one that attack silk, or the one that eat grapes, or one that eat figs, or one that eats pomegranate, all pose dangers to one who swallow them. Story, Hahu Talmida, it was a disciple, the Havayativ Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, that he was sitting in front of Rabbi Yochanan, Hava Ka'achil Ta'aini, he ate while he studied, he ate figs. You know, some rabbis, like myself, enjoy when sometimes people at the Suda eating. So anytime they have a big events, and some people feel uncomfortable while the rabbi is speaking and they eat, they feel it's disrespectful, I always announce when I start my speech, even there are tons of people, I always said, it gives me a joy for you to eat while I'm speaking, as long as you're listening and not disturbing. So anyway, this student said to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi, kotzin yesh b'te'enim. He said, oh, Rabbi, my teacher, are there thorns in the figs? So Rabbi Yochanan right away understand that the inside they have this type of very destructive worms. Amar lo, katlei peleden. He said to him, the peh, meaning the mouth, killed that fellow. The insect in the fig had punctuated the student's throat, which means that he want to express what happened here. Hamutzi kupat haruchlim. If one, the Mishnah said, one carries out a merchant's basket, so it means from one domain to another domain on Shabbat. Af al pi sheyesh ba minim arbe, even there are many types of spices there. So those, Rashi said that those merchants, they used to go around in the ancient times. They used to knock doors and sell it for women, fragrance and spices, and it was a small boxes inside. That in each of them they have a different type of fragrance. So they said, אף על פי שיש בה מינים הרבה, even they have many types of spices and juries, אינו חייב אלא חטאת אחד. One is obligated only to bring one sin offering. Why? Because it's considering only הוצאה אחת, one type of carry. זרעוני גינה, but one carries a garden seeds, פחות מגרוגרת, even a small measure of less than the dry figs. So they said, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beitera omer chamisha. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beitera said that the measurement of the liability is the 5 seeds. So Tosfot here have a lot to say. He asked questions, and he answered. I just give you the abbreviation. Tosfot said 2 points. One, that all different type of spices, especially fragrance one, that you put it in one kli, in one pot, so it's considering one. On the Tosfot also said that if you have the small olive block of chelev mevushal together with the tzli, and he put it in a lem echad, so it's like one time, so you need to bring 2 separate sin offering. But here he speaks about different type of spices that you not divided them separately. We just turned the page, 90b. Zera kishuin. If one carry out a cucumber seeds, shnaim, it's 2 seeds. Why? Because they are large and conspicuous. Zera diluin. If they have a squash seeds, it's 2 seeds. Again, what's the measurement? Zera pol hamitzri, shnayim. If one takes seeds of Egyptian's beans, it's 2. That's because all these type of seeds, it's considering important more than other garden seeds. That's what Rashi said here. Rambam in the interpretation of the Mishnah elaborate on that. Anyway, Chagav chai tahor kolshehu. Chagav, by the way, it's a big question which type of locust it's kosher or not, but here they speak about that one, it's a live kosher locust in any amount, and the GEMARA later explain what happened with the minor, etc., eating it. So they said kolshu in any amount. Why? Because usually they are hiding it for the minor to play with that. The little children, they're playing with that. Met, if someone take a dead kosher locust, which is edible, so the same as other food, kigrogeret, it's like a fig bark. It's like a very dry one. So it's considering like all the others, because Rashash said that kosher locusts, it's not like other quote-unquote animals that you need to slaughter them in order to eat them properly. So therefore, if he's dead naturally, I don't know if people are nowadays capable to eat these type of things, but in those days, basically, simply speaking, it's not an issue of kashrut, it's kosher. Anyway, tziporet kramim. Tziporet kramim, it's a bird that it's called tziporet kramim. It's a big question. What does that mean? There is some say that it's a Egyptian locust. If you remember that we have several years ago this that come every
13 years, a lot of the locusts come. Cicadas, yeah.
So it's a question if that's what it means. But anyway, it's a big question if it's those reddish yellow, it's a wing are gray brown, or something like that, or etc. It's not clear. But anyway, this type of locust that is pure, it's a GEMARA in Chulin 65 that deal with this type of They say that it's usually raised in the date trees. That's the place that they are, and that's the reason they use the word kramim. It's like from the Song of Songs. Ben chaya, ben meta, kol shehu. Regardless if it's alive or dead, in any amount. Why? Shematzni'in ota lerefuah. So the GEMARA later explained what type of medicine they used it in ancient time. But he says because they save it for healing, so it makes no difference the size. Sometimes a healing can be a cream or pills or something like that, can be in a small miniature size. Infinitesimal, small tiny size. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Afa motzi chagav chai, tameh. Even one, he said, take a live, non-kosher locust, is liable for carrying any amount. Kosher, why? Shematzni'in oto lekatan, lischok bo. Because they leave it for the little children, they want to play with that. Right? So that's, by the way, the reason for the first one, for Tanakama, that said that the big concern that maybe the little child going to eat it, you give something to little children, sometimes they're playing, sometimes they're eating it, right? The very little one, they doesn't know the difference. Veramini, now we go to the GEMARA. Zevel vechol adak. Now it's a question, it's a contradiction, because we said that compost and fine sand כדי לזבל קרח של כרוב to fertilize a cabbage stalk, דברי רבי עקיבא. והחכמים אומרים, and the sages said, כדי לזבל כרישה, equivalent to that which is used to fertilize a single leek. So even a single plant is still a significant amount. So they said, Amar Rav Papa. So Rav Papa responded and he said, this, such a small measure, it's because had דזריע ועד לא זריע לפי שאין אדם טורח להוציא נימך עד דזריע. So this one is planted, this was not, because usually a person does not go out the trouble to carry a single seed for planting. Then we said in the Mishna, zera kitshuim, if one have a small measurement of what? Of cucumber and squash seeds. Tanu Rabbanan motzi garinim, if someone take the seeds of date, im linti'a, if they use in order to plant, shtaim. So it's two. So in other words, there are two options to see this Mishnah. This is the Tosfot. He says, number one, if it's good for planting. Number two, if people get used to plant them. Because you can't say that there's justice for planting, because we just said that it can be just one seed. Im la'achila kim lo pi chazir. So if it's the purpose of eating, so it's a mouth to fill a pig's mouth. So just use it, even that we're not raising pigs, this famous GEMARA Bava Kama 82. But he maybe, Tosfot said, he hide them in order to sell them or to give it to a non-Jew. So that's the amount. Vekama melo pi chazir. What's the amount of fill a pig's mouth? They said, achat, one date pit. Im leasik, if you want to burn the pits, כדי לבשל ביצה קלה, the measure that is making it liable, it's an equivalent to cook a small light egg, which is, what is a small light egg?
Chicken's egg.
Chicken egg. Im lecheshbon, shtaim, which means usually people use different coins, regular coins together in order to put this small pit and make it together in such a measurement, Rashi said. So it's considering two pits. Acherim omrim, and again we assume that Acherim is Rabbi Meir. The measure liability is what? Chamesh, 5 pits. So keeping track of up to 5 items without any help. That's the amount. Usually people remember of 4 without using any signal, Rashi said. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages teach us, Hamotzi shne nimim miznav asus umiznav hapara chayav. If one who carries out 2 hairs from the horse tail or cow's tail is liable. You know, sometimes members of our shul takes me to ride a horse in the summertime. So I saw how they're treating the horse. Sometimes they take the tail and they brush it and they clean it and they pull out the hairs. So it's not uncommon that people use even to these very days. So here they said if someone carry out 2 hairs from the horse's tail, or cow's tail, so on Shabbat is liable. Why? Because shematzni'im otam lenishbit. In those days they use it to use it as a traps. So that's the purpose they use it in those days. Rashi in Bava Kama 79 explain it. Anyway, makshe shel chazir, on the back of a pig there are hair that are very strong, so it's a person is liable even for 1 single hair. Why? Because they said that the shoemakers put it as to put together the shoes, right? It's like either they use it as tightening the shoes, etc., or they're putting together the pieces. They're for shoemaker. So someone use it for that purpose. So even a small one, he's liable. Tzuei dekel shtaim, palm fronds, 2 fronds. Why? So they use it. That's the people use. Torei dekel achat. Palm vines, it's a peel for the front of the thinner, is 1 vine. So that's what they, again, the Meiri said that they use it for a stick to hit the animals in those days in order for them to do some work. Tziporet kramim ben chaya ben meta kol shehu. When we use tziporet kramim, and we said that it's a lot of ideas like from cicadas to other things, but anyway, tziporet kramim, whether it's alive or is it dead, the measure is any amount. Why is any amount? Because people use them for the purpose of healing, to make it some type of medicine. And now we want to elaborate. We want to know what is tziporet kramim, and now you see a different opinion. My tziporet kramim. What is tziporet kramim? Now you see a different opinion. One hold Amar Rav Palya Biari. One said that it's a Palya Biari. That's the name of the locust. Amar Abaye Mishtakach Bedikla Dechad Navara. Usually it's in a palm tree that has only 1 vine. Ve'avdela lechuchma, achile lefagdei minei ufagdei smilei. Ramele begovta nechashta vechatim lebishitin gushpanke vetale be'era deslamna. So basically they use it. It's they pull it out and use for wisdom in those days. This like a medicine for wisdom. One eats it the right half and casts its left half into a copper tube and seal it with 60 seals and hang it on his left arm, and it's, they believe it's like a talisman, that they use it in order to open the heart, Rashi said, and in order to be wise. That's what they said. Again, it's the ancient way. And they use the term from the book of Ecclesiastic, from Kohelet, chapter 10. They said, Lev chacham limino velev ksil lismolo. That the wise person, the heart of wise is on the right, and the foolish is on the left. So that's the reason they use it in that side. So someone who's not, who's a fool, so it's on the left in that side. V'chakim kama debai. And one who grow wise as much as he wants. V'gamar kama debai. V'achile leidachpal gadi. Lo miakar talmudo. So in order for a person to not to have his learning forgotten, that's what they use. You know, some people nowadays using a different thing. Someone told me he's using, I visited someone in a hospital, he said he's using ginkgo biloba, something like that, for memories, elderly persons. So it's all kind of ideas that they use it in so since you have a purpose for that, for healing purpose, or you have carries a value, so it makes no difference the size. Rav Yehuda Omer Afa Motzi. Rav Yehuda says even one who carries out a live non-kosher locus is liable to carry off any amount. V'Tana Kama Savar Lo. So the Tana Kama, the first one, the hold that people do not give children a non-kosher locus for play. Why? Dilma Achile, because the little child may be eaten. So we don't want the little child to commit a sin, because if you give him this non-kosher locus to play, and he may be eaten, so it's a problem. Even there are those who say that if the whole idea of the prohibition applies to people who have a brain, and not little babies or little children that they have no clue what they are doing. But anyway, they said, if you tell me that you need to hide it from a little babies, little children, because they may be eaten, taho name. So it's even something that is pure, it's kosher. It's also, you should say that why? Because you cannot eat it while they're still alive. We have this prohibition that you should not eat part of the animal when they're still alive. So even you say that it's all applied because they need to have a shchita, because they need a kosher slaughtering, and here the locus is not applied because you don't need kosher slaughtering. Well, Rashi said there's a different reason. Soon you see why. Why? The Harav Kahana Avakaim Kamei de Rav, because Rav Kahana he passed a live kosher locust near his mouth, and he stood before the bar. So Rav said to him, to Rav Kahana, put it down, so that people will not mistakenly say that he is eating and violating a prohibition. The Torah said, Mishum Balte Shekzu et Nafshodechem. The Torah said in Leviticus 11, you shall not make yourself detestable, which means that you should not eat something that is disgusting. So because people hold that this is disgusting things, so we learn that even a kosher, pure locust is forbidden to eat when it's still alive, not just because of the law of shchita. So now back to our question. So how come the first Tana said that we not hide for a little child something that it's a impure locus? So they respond and they said, Elma ela dilma mayet ve'achile. The reason is that because that maybe the child play and it will die, and then guess what he's going to do? He's going to eat it. So, but if it's a pure, it's a tahor, it's kosher, it's not, they have. Because people, the Ran said, people usually don't eat a live locust. But it's a dead, so you can eat it. And Rabbi Yehuda hold, I mayet katan mispad safedle. If the locust dies, the child will eulogize and mourn its death, and he will be so sad, he will not eat it. You know, remind me that when I live in the Har Nof in Yerushalayim, so one time our oldest child, and he wanted, we visited one of those places. They have a lot of animals and birds, and he wanted the little bird, you know, the cheering bird, the one that makes songs. What is called in English? Like the zamir, the one
songbird.
What?
Songbird.
Songbird. So he bought him a small, tiny green songbird with a cage, and we put it in the kitchen. Beautiful. And he was playing with that. A couple of days later, he loved this one so much, he opened the cover of the cage, and sure enough, he played, and before you know it, guess what? It's over. He's dead.
Yeah. Wow.
And our older child cried for like 2 days. Mourn over, he eulogized, like the GEMARA said here, he eulogized over that And it was so bad that we have no choice. We went back to that store and we bought another one. Fine, and it was there, and he was happy, and one day he cried again. Guess what he did now? While my wife was doing dishes, he opened the cage, and the bird fly away. So you see, the little children special, they're very attached even to the smallest size. Here you see, in very clear way. Hadran alach amar Rabbi Akiva v'adrach alan, da'atan alach amar Rabbi Akiva v'da'atach alan, lo nitneshem minach, amar Rabbi Akiva v'lo nitneshem minach, lo be'alma den v'lo be'alma de'ate. What we said is that we're going to revisit this chapter 9, page 19, chapter 9, again in Mitzvah Hashem, and this is just the beginning of our journey in this period. So we should say that in this chapter we learn a lot of things, not just in Halacha, also in Agadah. One of the important things we learn in this chapter, especially in this page we study today, is the machloket between Ramban and Rashba, the student and the teacher, in regards to the measurement of grogeret, the minimum measurement of the size, and one hold that what is importance in Shabbat, and one hold the importance of the size of grogeret. Now we're going to the practical halachot. First halacha is the Rambam Hilchot Shabbat chapter 18 in regard to mei raglaim. In those days they used a different term of laundry. So there is a certain laundry that made out of mei raglaim. So they use it as a laundry detergent. So if it's used less than 40 days, it's forbidden to carry it out. Another halacha, we learn it's pilpelet ve'itran, pepper and tar. We said with regard to carrying out pepper or tar, that can be used in the purpose of medicine on Shabbat. So the measure of liability is any amount. That's Rambam said in Hilchot Shabbat chapter 18. How about shivrei tashmishei kedusha, broken pieces of sacred articles? So any carry of out fragments or broken sacred articles that they use in the holy book in the temple, the measure of liability is any amount. The same apply to perfumes and the other fuel odors. So they said oil, spices, and all that they use for medicine purposes, it's any amount. It's a purple dye, virgin rosebud, it's all the various kind of metals, so it's any amount. Shiurei nedavot, measures of donate subject. One who donates a silver coin to the Beit HaMikdash must give no less than a silver dinar. One who vows to donate a copper coin must give at least a copper equivalent to me'ah of silver. One who donates an iron to the Beit HaMikdash must give at least square cubit of iron can use to installing a raven impediment. That's the Rambam, Hilchot Arachim, chapter 2. Now, for us, you should know that if a person doesn't specify the donation, you have to use a measurement of something that can be used for the sacred purposes. Kupat HaOchlim, a marchand basket. One who carries out a marchand basket on Shabbat is liable to bring only one sin offering since contain different type of object. Garden seeds, zeronei gina. So it's a garden seed on Shabbat, the measure is less than a dried fig bark. So, for example, if one carry out cucumber, squash, Egyptian bean seeds, or is 2 seeds. That again, Rambam Hilchot Shabbat, chapter 18. Chagav, we discussed the idea of locust. So that's again Hilchot Shabbat, carrying out kosher locust. It's any size. Dead kosher locust, it's a dry fig bark because they use it sometimes for other purposes. Tziporet kramim, we have a big question, what is the tziporet kramim? But the purpose is to use it for medicinal purposes. So regardless if it's a dead or alive, it's any amount. Seeds, want to carry out date pits. So again, date pits for animal feeds, it's 5. So there is a variant reading of the Rambam. Does not said 1 pit, it's a measure of liability carrying out pits for planting or counting a 2. So again, it depends on the purpose. And the last halacha of today, one who carries out 2 hairs. So explain that carrying hairs from the horse tail, for certain purposes it's 2. For carrying out the stiff hair of a pig is 1, it's much stronger, and they use it for the shoe maker. The measure of the terminal liability for carrying out palm fronds, it's 2, and 1 from palm stripe is 1. Again, it's a Rambam Hilchot Shabbat chapter 18, and the purposes is, again, if you have some use either for medicine purposes or for fixing shoes or other, for sticking, things like that, the minute you have it to use, so you go by the minimum measure in order for you to be liable of carrying from one domain to another.
Hashem